Greetings to all C3RF members and friends across Canada and around the world, and a special welcome to the folks at Veterans for Freedom on their dedicated streaming channels as they view this video summary of the C3RF update for 4 April 2025. The title of this update is, quote, "The Elbows Up Psyop," unquote. And it remarks on how timely it was that last week's update discussed the part that behavioral modification and psyops programs played in Canada's governance systems of late. No sooner had the federal election writ been dropped on 23 March 2025 than Canadians found themselves to be the target of an all-out psyop campaign. This onslaught would be premised on the fear of a threat from Orange Man Bad to the south of us and would suck up all of the oxygen within the election debate. Forget about discussing the critical issues of the day. The energies of all involved would be dedicated to beating the sovereignty war drums, as it was falsely posited that Trump wanted to, quote, "break Canada," unquote. This became the basic premise for the psyop. Canadians needed to embrace a hereditary fear that was the actual loss of the country itself. The hallmarks of a psyop were readily discernible and so overdone that they became comical. It was wall-to-wall, elbows up, as legacy media outlets flooded the airwaves with celebrities and normal folk promising to go into the corners on the tariff war, intent on bashing the opposition. No way any patriotic Canadian was going to buy an American product, and no way they were going to cross the border to do a bit of shopping. One could not help wonder, but if, immediately after such noble pronouncements, the celebrity went back to his home in California, or the regular citizen went back to his home to watch Netflix. It was all about the Trump factor, and there was no way the ruling class and its media minions were going to let you forget it. How odd, though, how could Canadians be expected to be patriotic and wrap themselves in the flag when they were, not so long ago, citizens of a nation that was post-national, without core values, and systemically racist? That's the way of the psyop, though, as narratives are liable to turn themselves inside out if the manipulators deem it advantageous. The trick is to keep the target off balance and in a state of ignorance and discombobulation. In this fashion, and in today's election environment, issues of past government fumbles can be glossed over, if not totally ignored. What of the issue of the anti-constitutional invocation of the Emergencies Act in 2022 and the status of the government's related appeal? What of the incontrovertible evidence that now shows lockdowns have been a massive failure and Wuhan virus vaccines to be totally unsafe and ineffective? And what of all the unexplained ties that so many election prospects have with the World Economic Forum and World Health Organizations that allegedly hid all of this information from a trusting public? The fact that psyops are intended to cloak or direct attention away from an inconvenient fact or situation is ably demonstrated in this year's election 2025 kabuki dance. The intent can be seen to be working on several levels, including the supposition that Canada has come under attack by Orange Man Bad. This narrative blithely states that Trump intends to wreck Canada's status as a sovereign state to sate his own expansionist ambitions. It's as simple as that, and there is no need to look into his declaration of a national security emergency based on the threat posed by runaway money laundering and fentanyl operations in a Canada that was refusing to entertain American requests for intervention. Indeed, the situation has become so over the top that even the national broadcaster, the CBC, has put a documentary together that chronicles just how bad the Canadian situation is. A situation that apparently is beyond our government's need to address. The elbows up psyop against Orange Man Bad also sees tariffs as a weapon aimed squarely at Canadian sovereignty. The story goes that the tariffs were conceived as an arbitrary project and simply meant to punish those who had bested the United States at the trade table over previous years and decades. This trade war narrative, however, strays far from the truth given Trump's well-considered tariff strategy. This strategy, as explained by his trade czar, Bob Lighthizer, seeks to reestablish a trade balance between America and the world writ large through reciprocal trade measures. This being the case, Canada is delusional if it thinks a trade war will convince the Americans to cease righting its own economic ship, and should instead begin the hard work of putting its own economic house in order. The elbows up strategy may buoy the fighting spirit, but it's water off a duck's back to the Americans and does nothing for Canada. The fact that the elbows up psyop is misrepresenting the lay of the election land to rank-and-file Canadians is one thing, but its stiff-arming of the real facts is quite another. Indeed, in the latter case, we are witness to the complete trashing of the right of the everyday citizen to have access to related expressive materials. The proof is in the pudding with the case of the People's Party of Canada leader, Max Bernier. He is known to hold views contrary to those of the elbows up psyop, and accordingly will not be allowed to express them in national election debates. This in spite of the fact that his party received the threshold 4% of votes in the election of 2021 that were previously required to be a debate participant. Canadians will not be allowed to hear what he has to say in direct violation of their individual fundamental right to free speech as expressed in Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This will be of no concern to our own governing and judicial institutions if they have demonstrated throughout the Wuhan virus pandemic that they have little time for such civil liberty niceties. Hiding just below the surface of the elbows up psyop are a number of other worrisome facts that speak to the very possible loss of Canada's strong and free birthright. Prime among them is candidate Carney's outlook on economic governance systems and his demonstrated affinity for command-driven markets. Indeed, he is on record as slagging his competitor Pierre Poilievre as a lover of free markets and offering up his belief that it is the job of the Liberals, quote, to make markets, to make the economy work, unquote. One would think that this outlook on the need to destroy Canada's traditional free market economy and replace it with one controlled by political forces would cause all to stand still in shock with mouths agape. Instead, the crickets chirp as a free market pricing system capable of reflecting, quote, millions of decisions made by people about what to buy, where to work, and where to live, the decisions of businesses about what to produce and where to invest, unquote, is allowed to slip below the surface. If the freedom of the individual to access a free market system with his or her own money is no longer on the table, then what policies will replace it? Carney's answer is straightforward and involves the government entering the financial system at the policy level to institute rewards and punishments based on compliance with net zero climate change targets. As the Soviet Union of old would force farmers to comply with ill-thought-out 5-year plans, so Carney and the Liberals will place all Canadian economic activity within an environmental social governance framework, ESG framework, that will hamstring the innovation and entrepreneurship associated with free markets in the name of global climate objectives. In the face of a new trade environment being deployed by American authorities, it's hard to see how such centrally controlled initiatives could be anything but disastrous for Canada that needs to be able to operate on all cylinders if it hopes to accommodate the hardships associated with a new tariff environment. After all, and by definition, Carney would kill the country's greatest economic engine in the form of its energy sector and no doubt force Alberta into a referendum process as a result. But are the suppositions that underpin Carney's worldview on science and the economy even valid in today's world? Recent peer-reviewed scientific research, for instance, affirms the long-stated fact that CO2 cannot be the thermometer it is professed to be when it comes to an increasing global temperature. It's simply not possible given the proven relationship that shows CO2 to be increased by global warming and not the other way around. Then there's the fact that Carney and his Net Zero G-Fans organization are now under investigation by the U.S. House Judiciary Committee for antitrust and collusion violations in that climate change financial cartels have come together to displace whole industries that have done nothing wrong save for operate outside of net zero guidelines. Is it any wonder that financial institutions are running away from such net zero codswallop? Is it time for Canada to get out from under supporting the elbows up psyop and begin supporting a move to drop Carney in the return to sender bin? In closing, a reminder to join us at CanadianCitizens.org, where you can see this update in its full glory, including all the links to all of the cited documents. Simply go to the News tab at the top of the page and select C3RF Member Updates from its drop-down menu. Until next time, this is Russ Cooper signing off, wishing you and yours much happiness and freedom from C3RF.